And we'd like to wish you a good afternoon and welcome to 11 Alive News at 4. I'm Jonathan Martin.
And I'm Faith Jesse. We are starting our news.
So this video is from 3 years ago or 2 years ago when it first broke and he was first arrested.
An hour earlier now to catch you up on what's going on in your neighborhood, offer you some ways to save money and help you and your family stay safe. So we begin tonight with breaking news. The Spalding County Sheriff's Office says a 17-year-old now in jail charged with murdering a 14-year-old outside of a recent high school football game. 11 Alive's Brittany Kleinpeter live from Griffin with the very latest. Brittany, what do we know about this arrest?
Good afternoon, guys. Authorities tell me 17-year-old Kamarian Kendrick is being held here at the Spalding County Jail, accused of murdering 14-year-old Emmanuel Dorsey. Now, I called Dorsey's mother. I spoke with her just a few hours ago. She said she was at the funeral home working on his obituary. She was relieved to hear that there's an arrest in the case, but she still can't fathom why someone would do this to her child. We are learning that the Spalding County Sheriff's Office says the suspect, Kendrick, was tracked down on Saturday to a home in Henry County, spotted sitting in his car.
Y'all see him smiling, right?
Authorities say he was armed with a gun but taken into custody without incident. Kendrick is accused of killing Dorsey on September 30th down the road from the Griffin Spalding High School football game. Both Kendrick and Dorsey attended Griffin High, and the district said they aren't considering this a random attack. So far, police have not released a motive in this case. We do know that Kendrick, again, is being held here without bond. Guys.
Now, let's go back and look at real quickly at that gun that they had. Hold on. They were showing. If you don't know what that is, right there at the bottom, attached to the back of the gun, that, my friends, is a switch. What the young kids call it, a switch that basically turns that into an automatic. It's an automatic 10 years. But let's go over into this next video where he actually sentenced to life without parole.
Let's get out to Doug Evans with this conviction, Doug. And what is next for this community and that family?
Hey, Tom, good afternoon, everybody. Listen, talk about a baby-faced gangster. Take a look at Kamarian Kendrick from his mugshot from a couple of years ago when Fox 5 originally covered this case back in 2023. Prosecutors would depict him in court as a stone-cold killer, unremorseful, even at trial, they told me today, and he will spend the rest of his life in prison for murder without the possibility of parole, and also 85 years tacked on to that. He's accused of killing Emmanuel Dorsey, a 14-year-old freshman at Spalding High back in 2023 after a rival football game there at the stadium in Griffin between Griffin High and Spalding High. Kendrick accused of opening fire on a group of people there and then going on the run for 8 days. The prosecutor told me today that he ditched the murder weapon during that time, but when they found him in Clayton County 8 days later, he had another weapon, this one capable of automatic fire, they said, had been modified, a semi-automatic handgun that had been modified to operate, they said, much like a machine gun. So this kid, he's now 19, will spend the rest of his life in prison. I talked to the prosecutor as well as the chief deputy prosecutor here, Kate Linhart, about the case just a few minutes ago.
I think the nature of the crime was key. I mean, it was a very, very violent crime. The ages of both the shooter and the victim were young. I believe the victim at the time of the crime was 14 years old. The shooter was 17. So I think that struck a nerve with the jury. It's a gang-related case, which, you know, we're just combating down there in Spalding County. And I think jurors are just fed up with it. They hear this over and over and over, and they've just had it with this kind of thing.
I think the world is fed up with it, but let's keep going.
What played for the jury in terms of the victim, 14 years old? And it seems to me that maybe his family had moved him down there to get him away from gang violence.
That's correct. He had only been in Griffin about 3 weeks, had been moved from Clayton County to live with family in Spalding County just because of the violence in their neighborhood.
Yeah, let's talk about the victim a little bit. Emmanuel Dorsey, 14 years old at the time. His family had moved him from Clayton County. He'd only been in Griffin 3 weeks before he was killed. They moved him from Clayton because his family told Fox 5 at the time, that they were worried about gang violence in Clayton. So they moved him to Spalding County, and then he is killed in gang violence there 3 weeks later outside this football game in September of 2023. As you heard Acting DA David Studdard say, gang violence has been a problem for many years down in Spalding County. I can tell you here on Fox 5, we have covered a number of cases of gang violence in the Griffin-Spalding area. Tom?
It's incredible, Doug, how the tentacles of gang violence reach to a community like the one you're in Spalding County. And I thought your question to the district attorney and the prosecutor.
Now, let me say, you know how unlucky you have to be, or how crazy fate is? Your parents move you out of a certain area, and then for gang violence, and then 3 weeks later you're killed from the thing they was trying to leave or trying to get you away from. I don't know if that's fate. I don't know if that's awful luck. That's
there about the victim in all of this, how young that individual was, 14 years old, and the sort of the punctuation mark on putting this guy away for the rest of his life, really. A family can never regain their loved one who's been killed, but what kind of closure is that providing them? Have they spoken out at all about this?
Tom, one of the things that came out at trial was the fact that Kamarian Kendrick was unremorseful after the murder, unremorseful at trial. It's something that sits hard on a community when you've got a 17-year-old at the time, now 19 years old, caught up in this horrific case, and yet is unrepentant. And it just shows the problem that they're dealing with these gangs down there, and how they have such a tight grip on these young kids. The family spoke with us at the time. We've not had an opportunity to speak to them since. At the time that we talked to them back in 2023, Kendrick was on the run. They had appealed to him to turn himself in. It was believed that there were people who were sheltering him at the time, and so that appeal went to them as well to do the right thing. So it's just a very sad case all around for the community, for this family of this young teenager.
Yeah, it'll be interesting and perhaps for us to talk about here another time, Doug, but what communities and police forces and jurisdictions like Spalding County are doing if gang violence is such a problem, to try to penetrate and crack down on these gangs to bring them under some sort of control.
It certainly is, Tom. I know that over in Spalding County, they have some gang units over there that operate and do the best they can. Tom, it's not just the gangs with the young kids over there. We've covered many stories of this Ghostface Gangster gang that is a prison gang that has its tentacles in this community as well, and these are adults also doing atrocious things. So it's not just the kids, but it is a very bad problem there in Spalding County. They recognize it. There are joint task force with the Spalding Sheriff's Office, also the Griffin Police Department to combat that as well.
Well, we're glad.
Gang violence and youth, especially youth violence, is a problem. Is a problem everywhere, or should be a problem everywhere. Everyone needs to consider that a problem. Something needs to be done. Either kids need to be locked up, either the parents need to be locked up who are raising these children. Something needs to be done. But let's get over into the AI breakdown, just because let's find out more information and see if we missed anything, because that's what we like to do. So let's get over into it. So as we know, In January 2026, Kendrick was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 85 years for the 2023 murder of 14-year-old Emmanuel. So the incident happened on September 30th, 2023, following a rival football game between Griffin and Spalding High School. A brawl broke out outside of Griffin Memorial, where Kendrick, who was 17 at the time, opened fire, um, striking the victim in the face and the neck, as he tried to run for safety. Kendrick fled and was captured 8 days later in Henry County. He gained notoriety for a widely circulating arrest photo in which he was seen smirking while being led away in handcuffs. Yeah, you saw. We stopped on that image. So he was convicted, found him guilty on January 30th of multiple charges, including felony murder, aggravated assault, 2 counts, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act, 3 counts, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and possession of a handgun by a person under 18. According to the Spalding County District Attorney, Kendrick used a Glock modified with a fully auto switch, effectively turning it into a rapid fire weapon. That itself gets you a minimum of like 10 years. But why did the brawl break out? So the brawl erupted between 2 rival cliques or gangs following a highly anticipated football game. So it's crazy. Griffin and Spalding High School. While the exact verbal or physical spark for the fight was not explicitly detailed, several factors contributed to the violence. So rival gang involvement. So according to the police warrants, while Kendrick and the victim Emmanuel were not gang members themselves, the group they were with were part of 2 rival gangs. So both of them were not even in the gang but they were hanging out with him. So I guess he wanted to be a gang member bad because he's the one who pulled the trigger, Kendrick. But he wasn't even in the gang. The tension of the big rivalry game acted as a catalyst, as the streets surrounding the stadium were packed with fans and members of opposing groups. Investigators stating that the shooting was not random. The suspect and the victim were schoolmates and acquaintances who knew each other. The mother described her son as an innocent bystander who was simply in the line of fire when the altercation escalated. I mean, do I think he would? I think you need to control who you hang out with. If you hang out with gang members, you are bound to get into some deadly situations. So the situation turned fatal when Kendrick pulled out a Glock modified with a fully auto switch, causing the crowd to scatter as he fired. Choose who you hang out with very carefully. Choose who you hang out with very carefully. Because if you hang out with gang members, you are bound to get into some stupid things or risk your life. It's a crazy situation, y'all, but let me know your thoughts on this whole thing. Let me know how you feel about it. We got a 19-year-old who's going to spend the rest of his life in jail till he dies. I can't imagine. Truly can't imagine. Now, you saw how he was showing no remorse. Do you think he was truly not remorseful, or he was just trying to be hard for the cameras because he has to go in there for the rest of his life? That's a question to think about. But we got to pivot.